Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. What I love so much about Brene Brown is that she is obsessed with how to get us looking at embracing our fears and imperfections. Every time I get nervous about something, it usually involves other people. I mean, my videos are basically me on the inside out. If you see me in public, for the most part, I'm actually very introverted. The times I'm not, they seem to be the times I'm embracing what I learn in books like this. Like, I'm super afraid of cameras, but my channel has over 300 videos, and a lot of my greatest fears have been faced only for me to find that they're still here and waiting for me to keep fighting. The fear of criticism for completely switching the industry that I want to put like a massive dent on the inside of. The fear of loving someone, the fear of trying something big, something new, like moving to Atlanta, even if it doesn't work out. The fear of not knowing what to do if that happens. The fear of doing whatever it takes instead of what I love in order to make my life purpose happen. And I think that's because what I said in my review of Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury, the value of utilizing what's in this book is only going up. Fear, honesty, courage, vulnerability, these things are the things that make people. And the people who are willing to rumble with them and really have talks where they have to display them are the ones that we as followers and even leaders really seem to resonate with the most. She knows we're in a time of chaos and great change. And she knows that the world, especially the corporate world, needs more transparency and courage. And if you are scared of what others think of you, anything by her is a wondrous dive into your insecurities and what seems to make you tick. Here are 4 different parts of the book. After the introduction, part 1, Rumbling with Vulnerability, has 5 sections. It's like over half the book is that part. Part 2 is Living into Our Values. Part 3 is Embracing Trust. And part 4 is Learning to Rise. The first section of part 1 is myths and misconceptions about vulnerability. Like, I don't do vulnerability. That's the beginning of betrayal. That's how I get hurt. Vulnerability is weakness. Let's not do it. A lot of her work, like full sections of it, they center around laying out misconceptions about shame and vulnerability because there are just so many of them. Section 2 is The Call to Courage, what her Netflix special was named after, which was, to say the least, captivating. I think I was much more comfortable with this book given what I already know about her previous work. And there are books of hers I haven't listened to, like Daring Greatly or Rising Strong, but somehow she manages to give you just enough info on those in this book to not really feel left out in that sense. She has a tendency to allow her listeners, viewers, and readers to not really feel left out. Because, as she says in the book, people are just people. Her storytelling is just, I would describe it as neighborly. In this section, she presents some useful tools of vulnerability and leadership. Vulnerability and belonging and empathy. If you think about it, so much of this actually kind of ties into persuasion. Section 3 is about 16 specific examples of armor leadership and 16 specific examples of daring leadership. But I feel like understanding the key differences between really any 2 key things is a very good set of information to use to separate what you want from what you don't. She also has a little rant on the consequences of perfectionism. She talks about shadow comfort and how we tend to kind of use it as a means of self-sabotage. Sometimes I like looking at negative Amazon reviews for books, and the 1-star ratings just said things like, you know, this is a rehash of all her other books. I couldn't make it through the introduction because there's nothing new here. I don't know. I think this one was heavily based on the application of vulnerability and courage and all these other values and emotions, but specifically in the workplace. If you know her work, again, it's probably more or less easy to listen to. Like, I started with Braving the Wilderness, and then I went to The Power of Vulnerability, and both are very welcoming, and you really do learn a lot about yourself. This one is more inspiring and uplifting. I don't think it's nearly as introspective. It's much more corporate, honestly. The other ones are a little bit more personal, to take more of like a little look inside. Section 4 of part 1 is kind of about like a dance between shame and empathy. Brene Brown has a tendency to like go the fuck in on shame. She is just like aching to beat shame to death in today's culture. She's like,
guys, look, this shit is everywhere, and here's what to do about it.
She also goes on about empathy, and I mean, Brene Brown is like a force of nature. Part 5 is about curiosity and grounded confidence. And I love what she says about curiosity. The more we know, the more we want to know. Encouraging people to answer some boring questions doesn't really seem as effective as already knowing what's interesting to them and relating what they think is boring to that. She talks about privilege in part 2, which is about, living into values. Brene Brown is someone that I do look up to, but she does pay a lot of attention to politics, and I really don't pay that much attention to politics. However, she says that when it comes to race or sex or anything, listen first. I see the value in this, and when it comes to listening, and she hears plenty of feedback from other people, she says things to herself over and over and over again, like,
there's value in this, there's value in this, there's value in this. I'm brave enough to listen, I'm brave enough to listen.
I take lots of feedback very personally. I really don't know if I'm that good at, accepting constructive criticism. I mean, some things, however, at this point, some people could say about me, where, after reading it, I just can't really feel the pain. From a workaholic point of view, for every negative thing you could tell me about myself, I have 10 more. That's not, a means of saying self-loathing, because in contrast, you could easily say the same thing about a positive thing about myself, where I have 100 more. And I think this is probably the deepest section, because she talks so much about the mechanics of values. She talks about the hows in this book, which I think is pretty unique. Part 3 is braving trust. What I find interesting is how she can just make topics like this accessible to everyday people. I mean, the stories are they're so relatable, but when you look at human behavior, applying these very large scale, large volume, everybody does this type ideas in really small, mundane situations is something that for some time people are going to have to constantly be thinking about in order to eventually start doing. People do think a lot about trust, for example, but what is braving? I don't even know what that is. Is it like cultivating? Part 4 is learning to rise. And there's an interesting idea somewhere in it about stories we make up and the lies behind them and how our minds are very compulsive about feeling this need to finish them, whether we have all the facts or we don't. I feel like ultimately the most important skill in this is learning how to rumble with vulnerability. Because this is the most operational one, the one that you see every single day. And it all blows up if you can't do it right, because the longer you repress it, the greater the explosions become when they come. Quotes. Write what you need to read. We are not thinking machines, we are feeling machines that think. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The word sarcasm is from the Greek word sarkazin, which means to tear flesh. Tear flesh. Catch people doing things right, because it's much more powerful than collecting behaviors that are wrong. The opposite of play is not work, it's depression. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are, it requires you to be who you are. A response can rarely make something feel better. Connection is what heals. Our lens is soldered to who we are. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Spirituality is the human longing to experience the transcendent in our ordinary life. Be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt. Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who feels that their grip on effective leadership is inadequate. I definitely recommend this book, or really any of Brene Brown's, that I've listened to at least, if you have a sort of following you're trying to build, but you feel like you're having a little bit of trouble really connecting with them and getting through to what's inside. Direction 2. If you like this book, I really recommend checking out The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. That and the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell, which I'm going to be reviewing right after this book. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If there are any other books that you guys want me to review, please let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what you think of this book if you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button if you haven't already for the YouTube algorithm and YouTube ranking system and SEO. And it really helps grow this channel. I put so much time and energy and everything into these videos, and I really kind of just want to make a difference in the world. And if you want to contribute to that difference and help make a difference yourself, all you have to do is smash the like button. That's all I ask in return for all the shit that goes into these videos. If you've watched this far, I don't know why somebody wouldn't subscribe, but if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe. Turn on that little bell to join the notification squad is what they call it apparently, to get a notification every time I drop a new video. That would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.